They will tell you I discovered a secret. They are wrong. A secret is something hidden. The truth I found was never hidden. It was merely ignored, buried under layers of comfortable lies the world sells to keep people weak.
I call it the 1% rule. It's the principle that forged me. In finances, it took me from nothing into the top 1% of earners. In health, it is why, at 58 years old, my body operates with the strength and vitality of a person half my age. I did not arrive here by chance. I got here 1% at a time.
This book is not my bid for fame. It is a weapon. It was forged in the fires of my own transformation and battle-tested by the thousands who have come through the doors of warrior weight loss. I am Horace Dobson. As a nurse of 30 years and a wellness professional, I have seen thousands of people trapped in the same loop, asking the same desperate question: why can't I conquer this weakness? They think the problem is the diet. They are wrong. Every diet works. The real war isn't on your plate. It's in your past. It's in the stories you tell yourself. Many of you, particularly women, have been taught that your body is a target. So you, intelligently and unconsciously, built armor. You used weight as a shield to make yourself invisible, to protect yourself from pain, from unwanted attention, from a world that felt unsafe. The armor worked. It kept you safe. But now, the armor has become a prison. This is the problem I solved. The Dobson Mind Shift to Life Shift protocol is not a theory. It is a blueprint for laying down your armor and forging a crown. By pairing the relentless logic of the 1% rule with advanced metabolic tools, we have created a process that makes transformation inevitable. This book is short. It is direct. It is practical. It is designed to be absorbed in a single sitting, a concentrated dose of the truth you have been denied. I am not here to hold your hand. I am the scout who has already mapped the battlefield and returned to give you the coordinates. This is my life's work. It is proof. It is the path. Walk it, and you will not just shed the weight that has been your shield. You will reclaim the power you were born to wield. You will become the architect of your own life. The trail is marked. The choice is yours. Welcome to the war. Welcome to the 1%.
Chapter 1: The Weight of Nothing. Cassandra stared at her reflection in the fogged bathroom mirror. 248. The number from the scale that morning was a dull, familiar ache, a testament to a life lived in the background. It was the physical weight of every secret she'd ever kept, every feeling she'd ever swallowed, every time she had chosen to be invisible because she believed it was safer than being seen. Her life was a comfortable cage. A senior administrative coordinator at a healthcare corporation, she was praised for her diligence, but always overlooked for promotion. They saw steadiness, not leadership. She was the best friend, never the girlfriend, a master of laughing off insults before they could land. She had perfected the art of being essential, but forgettable. Her routine was a flat line of predictability. Wake up, coffee, work, microwave dinner, Netflix, sleep. Repeat. She wasn't unhappy, but she wasn't alive. The armor she had started building at 15, the shield of flesh she'd used to hide from a world that had taught her that desire was danger, had done its job perfectly. No one bothered her. No one saw her. But as she wiped the steam from the glass, the reflection that stared back was not a protected woman. It was a prisoner. Her eyes looked tired, not from lack of sleep, but from decades of emotional fatigue. A whisper escaped her lips, raw and honest, in the silent bathroom.
This isn't protection anymore, it's punishment.
The words cracked the foundation of the story she'd told herself for 20 years. A few nights later, unable to sleep, she was scrolling through her phone when a video stopped her. It wasn't a perky fitness influencer or a doctor in a white coat. The title was blunt: The Warrior Weight Loss Red Pill. The speaker was a man named Horace Dobson, and his words bypassed every defense she had.
You're not fat because you're lazy,
he said, his voice calm and authoritative.
You're fat because you've been protecting yourself from pain. You don't need another diet. You need a new identity.
For the first time in her life, Cassandra didn't feel judged. She felt seen. Utterly and completely seen. The words were a key turning in a lock she didn't even know was there. She found the website. There was no talk of journeys or being kind to yourself. There was talk of protocols, missions, and results. It was a different language, a language of power, not pity. At the bottom of the page was a button. It wasn't a gentle invitation, it was a challenge. Begin assessment. Underneath, in smaller text, this is not for everyone. This assessment determines if you have the mindset required. Answer with 100% honesty. Cassie's heart hammered in her chest. This was different. This wasn't selling a smaller dress size, it was demanding a different soul. For the first time since she was a little girl in a Sunday dress, a flicker of something other than resignation sparked within her. It felt like sovereignty. Her finger hovered over the screen. 1%. Could she be 1% more than just a survivor? She pressed the button. Chapter 2. The Assessment. The 15 questions were not about diet or exercise. They were about the soul. They were scalpels, designed to cut through the layers of justification she had built up over a lifetime. Do you see your body as an ally or an enemy? What story have you been telling yourself about why you are where you are? Are you willing to be seen? Cassie answered with a raw, terrifying honesty. She wrote about the armor. She wrote about invisibility. She wrote about the cage she had built for herself, bar by painful bar. She didn't pretty it up. She confessed. When she was done, she felt hollowed out, exposed. She hit submit and braced for the rejection she felt was inevitable. The screen refreshed. Tier 2, the shieldmaiden in chains. Your armor is heavy, but the warrior within is still alive. You have used protection as a prison for so long, you have forgotten you hold the key. This protocol will not be easy. It will require you to become vulnerable before you can become powerful. If you are ready to stop hiding, fill out the form. A shieldmaiden in chains. The phrase resonated in her bones. It was the truest thing anyone had ever said about her. She filled out the form, her hands trembling. The email arrived the next morning. It was from Horace Dobson himself.
Subject: Your coronation. Cassandra, your assessment was a confession. It detailed the story of a woman who intelligently, and for very good reasons, built a fortress to protect herself from a world that had proven itself to be hostile. Your armor worked. It kept you safe. Do not for 1 second apologize for the strategy that allowed you to survive. But that strategy is now obsolete. The armor that once protected you is now suffocating you. The fortress has become a prison. And the woman who was once a survivor is now a prisoner of her own defenses. We are not going to put you on a diet. We are going to begin the process of disarmament. You will lay down your shield, pound by pound, not so you can be a target, but so you can be free to finally pick up a sword. Motivation is a feeling. It is a flickering candle in a storm. We do not operate on motivation. We operate on clarity. For years, your objective has been to remain safe. That has made you a master of hiding. Your new objective will make you a master of reigning. This is your new command. Objective. Shed 50 pounds of armor in 6 months. This is not a negotiation. It is a measurable, time-bound mission. Every decision you make will now be filtered through a simple binary. Does this unburden me, or does it add another layer to my prison wall? That is clarity. Clarity is power. This is not just about aesthetics. This is a coronation. We will strip away the armor that has been hiding the queen. We will use NAD+ to refuel your cellular energy, to restore the vitality the armor has drained from you. We will use glutathione to purge the physical and emotional toxins you have stored for years. Laying down your armor changes how you look in 6 months. Reclaiming your throne changes how you rule for the next 6 decades. Your journey begins now, with a 1% shift from protection to power. Your first directive, 24 hours. 1. On a clean sheet of paper, you will write your new objective. I will shed 50 pounds of armor by date 6 months from today, because I choose to be powerful, not just protected. 2. Drink 1 gallon of water. This is not just hydration. This is a ritual of cleansing. You are flushing out the old stories, the old fears, the old identity. This is your first test. Do not hesitate. Do not negotiate with the part of you that wants to stay in the cage. Execute.
Report back. HD. Cassie read the email and tears streamed down her face. They weren't tears of sadness or self-pity. They were tears of recognition. He had seen her. He had seen the scared little girl and the powerful woman she was meant to be all at once. She stood up, found a pen and her best stationery, and in her most careful script, she wrote the words that would begin her reign. Chapter 3. Scorched Earth, Eliminating Weakness. Cassie taped the elegant script to her bathroom mirror. It was a royal decree, replacing a lifetime of silent, fearful negotiations. Then she drank the gallon of water. It was a deluge, a physical act of flushing out the stagnant energy she'd held for years. She felt clean, empty, and ready. She sent a 2-word reply to Dobson.
Directive complete.
The response was immediate. Subject, your coronation. Good. A queen cannot rule from a compromised throne. Your home is not a sanctuary. It is a fortress filled with the very tools of your imprisonment. The comfort food, the sugary treats, they are not rewards. They are the mortar in your prison walls. They are the chains, disguised as solace. On your worst day, after the world has reminded you of why you built the fortress in the first place, your resolve will be low. You will not have the strength to fight a battle against the ice cream in your freezer. So you will not fight. You will eliminate the enemy before the battle begins. Your second directive, 3 hours. The sanctuary cleans. 1. Arm yourself with 3 trash bags. 2. Kitchen, pantry. Every item that you have ever used to numb, soothe, or hide is now contraband. The cookies you eat after a hard day. The chips you snack on when you're lonely. The box of cake mix you save for emergencies. All of it. Do not hesitate. Do not save it for later. Later is a trap. Put it in the bags. 3. Kitchen, refrigerator, freezer. The pint of ice cream that promises comfort. The sugary sodas. The frozen meals that offer convenience over vitality. All of it. Contraband. 4. Do not donate it. This is not about food. It is about symbolism. You are destroying the tools of your own subjugation. Take the bags to the dumpster immediately. This is not a diet. This is an exorcism. You are casting out the habits that have kept you in chains. When you are finished, your kitchen should feel like a sanctuary, clean, intentional, and ready to fuel a queen. Report back. HD. Cassie's blood ran cold. This felt different than a diet purge. It felt personal. She walked into her kitchen and opened the pantry. It was a library of her secret pain. The half-eaten bag of peanut butter cups was for the loneliness. The family-size bag of potato chips was for the anxiety. The box of chocolate fudge brownie mix was for the deep, unnamed sadness that sometimes swallowed her whole. These weren't just foods, they were her co-conspirators, her only companions on her worst nights. She reached for the peanut butter cups, her hand hesitating. A wave of panic seized her. What will I do without this? What will keep me safe? Her eyes darted to the reflection in the dark microwave door. She saw the fear in her own face, and then she saw the words from the mirror in the other room burned into her mind. I choose to be powerful, not just protected. She grabbed the bag and shoved it into a black trash bag. The crinkle of the plastic was a sound of betrayal and liberation all at once. Then another, the chips. The crackers that were her sensible snack. The sugary cereal that was her secret breakfast. She worked with a quiet, methodical fury. She was not just throwing out food, she was throwing out the story. The story that she was a woman who needed to be numbed. The story that her pain was a beast that could only be sedated with sugar. 3 bags sat by her door, heavy with the weight of her past. She hauled them to the dumpster, a final ceremonial offering. As she let them go, she didn't feel loss. She felt light. She walked back into her apartment, and the silence in her kitchen felt different. It wasn't empty. It was sacred. She had created a space where she could no longer run and hide. She had to show up. She had to feel. She sat down and wrote her report to Dobson, her hand steady.
The throne is clear.
Chapter 4, Fuel for War, the Protein Mandate. Cassie woke to a kitchen that felt alien in its emptiness. For years, her mornings had been a negotiation with the boxes in her pantry, a healthy granola bar here, a low-fat muffin there. Now there was no negotiation. There was only a void and a low hum of panic about how to fill it. The email from Dobson was already waiting.
Subject: your coronation. You have cleared the throne. Now you will learn to nourish the queen. The system has lied to women about food. It has sold you on delicate salads, tiny portions, and the idea that being satisfied is unfeminine. It has taught you to fear protein, to see it as something that makes you bulky. This is a lie designed to keep you weak, hungry, and dependent on the next sugary snack. A queen is not delicate. She is powerful. And power requires substance. You are not just shedding armor, you are building a throne of lean muscle. Muscle is the currency of your metabolism. It is the physical manifestation of your strength. Fat is the ghost of your old fears. Protein builds a throne. Your third directive, immediate, the royal decree. 1. Calculate your decree. Your daily protein target is based on 0.8 grams per pound of your goal weight. Your goal is a lean, powerful 150 pounds. Therefore, your daily decree is 120 grams of protein, 150 times 0.8. This number is non-negotiable. 2. Procure royal provisions. Your first meal of the day and every day will fortify your throne with a minimum of 30 grams of protein. Your last meal will do the same. Go to the grocery store. Your list is concise. Eggs, chicken breast, fish, Greek yogurt plain, quality protein powder. These are no longer just foods, they are the raw materials for your reign. 3. The first meal. Cook and consume a minimum of 4 eggs immediately. 4. Keep the royal ledger. Download a calorie tracking app. You will log every gram of protein you consume. A queen does not guess about the state of her kingdom. She deals in facts. The system profits from your hunger. Protein is the rebellion. It provides satiety, the feeling of being satisfied and in control. It requires more energy to digest, stoking your metabolic fire. It is the building block of your physical sovereignty. Failure to meet your decree is an act of abdication. It is choosing to remain a prisoner when the cell door is open.
Execute. HD 120 grams. Cassie did the math. It seemed like an astronomical amount of food, a direct violation of every diet rule she had ever learned. The thought of eating so much, so deliberately, was terrifying. It felt powerful, and that was the most frightening part. But she had cleared the throne. She couldn't leave it empty. She walked to the refrigerator, which held only eggs and water. She cracked 4 into a pan, the sizzle a sound of defiance against the quiet, hungry ghosts of her past. She didn't eat them over the sink like a shameful secret. She put them on a plate, sat at her clean, empty table, and ate with intention. It was not a binge. It was not a punishment. It was fuel. She logged the 24 grams in the app. 96 to go. She grabbed her keys. At the grocery store, she moved with a new purpose. She bypassed the brightly colored aisles of the system, the siren song of the snack foods, and headed for the periphery. The meat, the dairy, the produce. Her cart, filled with packages of chicken, tubs of Greek yogurt, and a large canister of protein powder, felt like a statement. She saw a woman from her office, Brenda, in the frozen food aisle, her cart piled high with microwave dinners and ice cream. Brenda's eyes met hers, flickered down to the contents of Cassie's cart, and then back up, a flicker of something unreadable, pity, confusion, in her expression. The old Cassie would have shrunk, offering a self-deprecating laugh or an excuse. The shieldmaiden stood her ground. She met Brenda's gaze, gave a small, polite nod, and continued her mission. She was no longer a member of the herd, grazing on the same processed comfort. She was procuring provisions for a queen. Chapter 5. Hydration as a Weapon. Cassie walked into the office, clutching a gallon water jug so large it looked like military equipment. The plastic was clear, unbranded, functional, a statement of intent rather than style. It sloshed with every step she took, and heads turned before she even reached her cubicle. She placed it on her desk. The sound, a deep, resonant thud, echoed across the small, open workspace. Her co-workers blinked, then smiled the way people do when someone breaks an unspoken social rule. Brenda from accounting wrinkled her nose.
Good grief, Cassie. Planning to drown yourself?
Cassie smiled faintly.
Hydration strategy.
She said, unscrewing the cap.
1 gallon a day.
Brenda laughed.
Strategy? Honey, this is an office, not boot camp.
The words drew a few chuckles. Even Carol, her supervisor, smiled indulgently before turning back to her computer. Cassie took a long, deliberate sip from the jug and said nothing. The laughter rolled past her like a wave breaking on rock. She knew what they didn't. This wasn't a water bottle. It was a weapon. The directive. The night before, the message from Dobson had been brief and commanding.
Subject: the scepter. You have spent your life trying to be invisible. The gallon jug is not for hydration. It is your declaration. It is large, inconvenient, and impossible to hide. It forces the world to see your commitment before they hear your voice. Carry it as your scepter. Let them stare. You are not one of them anymore.
Cassie hadn't realized how true that would feel until she was surrounded by the polite mockery of the herd, as Dobson called it. Every sip was an act of quiet rebellion. But midday brought her first test: the ambush. At 1:15, she joined the team meeting in the glass conference room, her gallon jug in tow. The table was lined with paper coffee cups, energy drinks, and half-eaten muffins from the morning's vendor drop-off. As she took her seat, Henderson, the regional operations director, sharp suit, brighter smile, raised an eyebrow.
Is that your lunch, Cassie? Or are you just planning to water the plants later?
The room laughed. For a moment she felt the old heat rising in her cheeks. The armor she'd spent a lifetime wearing, self-deprecating humor, retreat, silence, instinctively tried to close around her. Say something small. Diffuse it. Then she remembered Dobson's words. You are not one of them anymore. She looked up, meeting Henderson's smug grin head-on.
Actually,
She said evenly.
it's part of a protocol. The goal is clarity and endurance.
The laughter faltered. Henderson smirked again, but it didn't land this time.
Clarity and endurance? You training for something?
Cassie allowed herself the smallest smile.
Just leadership.
Silence. Then Carol coughed, awkwardly steering the conversation back to quarterly deliverables. Cassie didn't gloat. She simply drank from her jug, steady and deliberate, feeling the cold water slide down her throat like liquid steel. But under the surface, the moment burned itself into her memory. Henderson's smirk, the laughter, the way the room seemed ready to crown him the wit and her the oddity. It wasn't a wound, it was reconnaissance. She had seen her enemy, and he didn't even know a war had begun. The evolution. By 4 p.m., the gallon was empty. Her co-workers were still nursing their second coffees. The sugar crash was visible on their faces. The energy drinks had betrayed them. Cassie logged her intake into her royal ledger, her digital app a record of obedience to something larger than mood or habit. 1 gallon complete, directive executed. When she got home, her email pinged.
Subject: report received. Good. You endured the herd's laughter without retreat. They mocked your symbol because it reminded them of their weakness. The herd fears visibility because visibility demands accountability. A queen does not shrink to spare the comfort of the crowd. Tomorrow, the same time, the same jug. The same eyes will watch, but soon they will stop laughing. They will start explaining. They will say, I could never do that. That is how sovereignty begins. HD.
Cassie read it twice, the laughter at work replayed in her mind. Not as humiliation now, but as ignition. She looked at the empty jug on her counter, the plastic reflecting the kitchen light like polished armor. Tomorrow it would go back with her, louder than ever. It wasn't a water bottle. It was the first crown she'd ever worn. Chapter 6, The First Campaign, Conquering Movement. Cassie woke before her alarm, a rare occurrence. It wasn't the jarring awakening of anxiety, but a quiet, energetic hum. She looked at the scepter on her nightstand, the gallon jug, and the decree on her mirror. She was a queen in her silent throne room, awaiting the day's first command. The email arrived at 0600 hours, punctual as a royal summons. Subject, claim your territory. A queen does not wait for her kingdom to be handed to her. She surveys her domain. She walks its borders. She owns every inch of it through her presence. For years, your body has been a fortress, a static defense. You have treated it like a cage to be hidden, not a vessel to be moved. Today you reclaim your physical domain. We do not start with a frantic, punishing assault on a gym. The system sells that fantasy, leading to shame, burnout, and retreat. We start by conquering the ground beneath your feet. Your fifth directive, daily, the royal procession. 1. You will walk for 60 minutes. This is not a casual stroll to the mailbox. This is a procession. Your pace will be purposeful. Your posture will be upright. You are not just moving your body, you are announcing your presence to the world. 2. No distractions for the first week. No podcasts, no playlists, no audiobooks. The objective is not to escape the discomfort. The objective is to command it. Pay attention to your breath. Feel the protest of muscles long dormant. Acknowledge the weight of the armor you still carry. This is the raw data of your current kingdom. 3. This is not exercise. Exercise is a tax paid for poor choices. This is movement. It is a non-negotiable ritual of your reign, as essential as breathing. It is the physical act of moving from the woman you were to the queen you are becoming. A body at rest remains at rest. A body in motion builds momentum. This is the law. Today you change your fundamental state of being from static to sovereign. Report back upon completion. HD 60 minutes. It felt like a public spectacle. Cassie put on a new pair of running shoes, the first she'd bought in a decade, and walked out into the crisp Atlanta morning, her scepter in hand. The first 10 minutes were a surge of defiance. I can do this. I am doing this. The next 20 minutes were a trial by fire. The armor was heavy. A dull ache radiated from her lower back, a complaint from her spine for years of carrying the burden. Her hips protested, a sharp stitch jabbed at her side. The old voices, the whispers of the cowering girl, began their assault. Everyone is staring. They're laughing. They see the fat woman playing pretend. You look ridiculous. The final 30 minutes were a battle of the soul. Her lungs burned. Sweat plastered her t-shirt to her skin, a humiliating proof of her weakness. Every passing car felt like a judgment. She wanted to shrink, to turn back, to retreat to the safety of her fortress. She looked down at the water jug, the symbol of her new reign. She thought of Alex, not of his validation, but of the flicker of respect in his eyes when she had refused to be small. What would a queen do? A queen would not run. A queen would not hide. A queen holds her head high. She pulled her shoulders back, lifted her chin, and focused on her posture. She was no longer a fat woman shuffling in shame. She was a queen on a royal procession, surveying her domain. Her pace became more deliberate, more powerful. Each step was an act of claiming territory. When her phone's timer finally buzzed, she was gasping, drenched and exhausted. But as she leaned against an old oak tree to catch her breath, she felt a wave of exhilaration. She had faced the public, faced her own inner demons, and she had not retreated. She walked the last few blocks home, her stride different. She was no longer trying to be invisible. She had marched through the heart of her fear. She sat, her legs aching, and typed her report.
The domain has been surveyed. The territory is being claimed.
Chapter 7, Strategic Recovery, Engineering Sleep. A week had passed, 7 processions, 7 gallons of water, 7 days of meeting her protein decree. Cassie felt a fundamental shift in her operating system. The low-grade fatigue that had been her constant companion for years was lifting, replaced by a clear, steady energy. She had lost 6 pounds of armor, but the war was escalating. The initial victories were followed by a new level of resistance. Her body, pushed in new ways, ached with a profound soreness. Her mind, no longer sedated by sugar and distraction, was restless at night. The ghosts of her past, the memories she had buried under layers of armor, began to stir in the quiet darkness. Sleep became a battleground. Her report to Dobson was blunt.
Gains are being made, but recovery is compromised. The nights are a new front.
The reply arrived, not with sympathy, but with a new set of strategic weapons.
Subject: Night Operations. Excellent. You have discovered the fundamental truth of transformation. The battle is won or lost in the dark. The amateur focuses on the attack, the workout, the diet. The professional focuses on recovery. This is where the throne is truly rebuilt. Your body is now a construction site. The processions and protein are the raw materials, but the construction crew only works when the site is closed, during deep, restorative sleep. The system has sold you a lie about sleep, that it is a passive state of weakness. It is the most active metabolic state you will enter. It is when your body balances the hormones that command fat burning, rebuilds the muscle that drives your metabolism, and purges the toxins of the day's battles. We will now weaponize your sleep. Your 6th directive, nightly. The Royal Decree.
1. The Royal Chamber Protocol. As before, your bedroom is a recovery chamber. 1 hour before sleep, engineer total darkness, lower the temperature, and eliminate all screens. 2. The Night Ops Arsenal. With this email, a supply drop has been dispatched. It contains your advanced recovery tools, AOD 9604, MOTSC, and Tessamorelin. This is no longer just about shedding armor. It is about rebuilding the Queen from the cellular level up. Tessamorelin. This is the architect. Administered before sleep, it encourages your body's natural, powerful pulse of growth hormone, which peaks in the dark. This is the master signal for tissue repair and building lean muscle, the very throne of your new metabolism. AOD 9604. This is the quartermaster, targeting and mobilizing the most stubborn fat stores, the oldest layers of your armor, to be burned for fuel while you sleep. MOTSC. This is the engineer, repairing and optimizing your mitochondria. It enhances the cellular energy production needed to fuel the intense reconstruction happening while you rest.
These are not sleep aids. They are strategic tools that turn your recovery from a passive rest into an active, 24/7 fat-burning and reconstruction process. You will administer them as instructed before entering your recovery chamber. Tonight, you don't just go to sleep. You command the reconstruction of your kingdom. HD.
The package arrived that afternoon. The small, cold vials and sterile syringes felt serious, a level of commitment that made her stomach flutter. This wasn't a diet anymore. This was bioengineering. This was alchemy. That night, after sealing her royal chamber, she sat on the edge of her bed, the small syringe in her trembling hand. For a moment, the ghost of the girl who was a victim, who had things done to her, surfaced. The needle was a violation. Then she looked at her reflection in the dark window. She saw the shadow of a queen. A queen is not a victim. A queen makes her own choices. A queen wields her own weapons. This was not a violation. It was a coronation, an act of sovereign will. She administered the dose, a sharp, clean sting of control. She lay down in the cool, silent darkness. But this time, when the ghosts came, they seemed smaller, more distant. She focused on her breathing, and for the first time she felt a deep, profound wave of calm, a sense of her body actively working for her, not against her. Foundational energy she hadn't felt since childhood. At work, the difference was profound. A complex spreadsheet that had been giving her trouble for a week suddenly made sense. The tangled web of data resolved into a clear, simple pattern. She didn't just fix the problem, she re-engineered the entire workflow, creating a new template that was 50% more efficient. She didn't announce her breakthrough. She simply sent an updated file to her department head, with a brief note.
Identified and resolved the bottleneck in the Q4 reporting process. This new template should prevent future issues.
An hour later, her boss appeared at her desk, a rare look of genuine respect on his face.
Cassie, this is brilliant. You just saved us weeks of work on the next audit cycle.
It was more than a compliment. It was an acknowledgement of her power. She had been seen not just as reliable, but as formidable. She understood. The war wasn't just about her body, it was about her mind. And winning in the dark was the secret to reigning in the light. Chapter 8. Building the Arsenal, Forging Steel. A week had passed. 7 processions, 7 nights of weaponized sleep. Cassie felt like a new person, rebuilt from the inside out. The soreness was gone, replaced by a thrumming, vital energy. The armor was noticeably lighter. She had lost another 8 pounds. She had purged. She had reinforced. But she was not yet powerful. The shieldmaiden had no shield. The queen had no throne. The email from Dobson was titled simply, Phase 2. Subject, Phase 2. You have successfully completed the purge. You have cleared the ground, established supply lines, and learned the art of strategic recovery. You are no longer a civilian, but you are not yet a queen. A queen is not defined by what she sheds, but by what she builds. Right now, your body is territory reclaimed, but it is not yet fortified. We are going to build your throne, not of gold, but of steel. The modern gym is a lie sold to women. It is a social club of brightly lit studios, promising to make you smaller, leaner, less threatening. It sells you on cute outfits and cardio machines facing televisions. It is a playground designed to keep you weak, to make you feel like you are achieving something while you achieve nothing of substance. You will not go there. You will find a place of iron and chalk, a place that smells of effort. Look for a place that intimidates you. If you feel comfortable walking in, it is the wrong place. Your 7th directive, 3 times per week. The Forge. 1. Secure a membership, find a real gym, a place where strength is the currency. Pay for 1 month. This is your new throne room. 2. The protocol. Your workout will be brutally simple. You are not there to socialize or experiment. You are there to build. Your mission for the first month is this. Goblet squats, 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps. Push-ups, on your knees if you must, 3 sets to failure. Dumbbell rows, 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps per arm. Plank, 3 sets, hold for as long as you can. 3. The Royal Ledger. You will record every set and every rep in a notebook. You are not just lifting, you are collecting data. Your only goal each session is to be 1% stronger than the last. 1 more rep, 1 more pound, 1 more second. Fear is now your compass. The gym is a place you have avoided because it is an arena of the physical, a place where bodies are seen. It is the place you fear most, so it is the place you must go. You will feel exposed. You will feel like an imposter. Good. That feeling is the unrefined ore beginning to feel the heat of the forge. Every powerful woman you see in that gym started exactly where you are, uncertain, afraid, and determined. This is where shield maidens are forged into queens. Do not be intimidated, be disciplined. Report back after your first session. HD Cassie's heart seized, a gym. It was a theater of everything she had spent her life hiding from. An arena of mirrors, tight clothes, and judging eyes. It was the one place her armor had been designed to keep her out of. The thought of walking in, soft and clumsy, made her feel sick with a familiar primal fear. For a full day, she was paralyzed. She did her procession, hit her protein, but the directive sat in her inbox like a death sentence. That night, she Googled gyms, her hands trembling. She clicked past the polished corporate chains with their smiling stock photos. She found one on the industrial side of town, Forge and Fire Fitness. The photos were dark, all black iron and concrete floors. The people weren't smiling. They were focused, their faces masks of intense effort. It looked like a medieval dungeon. It was terrifying. It was perfect. She drove there the next evening, her car the only one in the lot that wasn't a truck or a beat-up sedan. She sat for 20 minutes, her knuckles white on the steering wheel, the ghost of the 12-year-old girl whispering in her ear.
Don't go in. It's not safe to be seen.
She closed her eyes.
I choose to be powerful, not just protected.
She grabbed her scepter, the gallon jug, and walked to the door. The moment she stepped inside, the sound hit her. Not the mindless thumping of pop music, but the rhythmic clang of heavy metal, the percussive drop of a deadlift, the grunts of genuine, unapologetic effort. No one looked up, no one cared. She found an empty corner, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She picked up a kettlebell that felt impossibly heavy for the goblet squats. Her form was awkward. She felt a dozen imaginary eyes dissecting her every move, but she focused on the protocol. 3 sets, 8 reps. She logged it in her new notebook, push-ups on her knees, her arms shaking with a humiliating weakness. She managed 5. She logged it. Dumbbell rows, a plank that lasted only 19 seconds. She finished in less than an hour, her body trembling with a mixture of fatigue and adrenaline. As she walked out into the cool night air, a profound realization washed over her. No one had stared. No one had judged. Her fear, the monster that had kept her in a cage for 2 decades, was a liar. She had not been a target. She had simply been another person in the room, fighting her own war. The fear was gone. In its place was a raw, electrifying sense of accomplishment. She had walked into the heart of her terror, and she was still standing. She got into her car, her hands still shaking, and sent her report to Dobson.
The throne is being forged.
Chapter 9. Fortifying your position, control your environment. Dobson's reply was waiting for her the next morning, as brutally efficient as the clang of iron she'd come to respect. Subject, Phase 2. Good. You faced the fire. That battle is won. But the enemy does not only attack on a declared field of battle like the Forge. It attacks through infiltration and sabotage in the places you believe are safe. The modern workplace is the primary front in this covert war. It is a landscape engineered for weakness. A minefield of breakroom donuts, catered lunches, vending machines, and birthday cakes. It is a system of social compliance designed to lull you back into the herd. The herd is soft, and it wants you to be soft with it. They will not understand your mission, and they will unconsciously try to sabotage it. You have secured your sanctuary. Now you will fortify your position in the world. Your 8th directive, daily, the Royal Court. 1. Total supply independence. You will prepare every meal you intend to consume at work in advance. You will bring your own fuel. A queen is never caught without provisions, forced to rely on the enemy's rations. 2. The power of no. You will be offered poison disguised as social bonding. Just 1 slice, they will say. You will politely but firmly decline. Your no thank you is your shield. It is a complete sentence and requires no further explanation. Every time you use it, your authority grows. 3. Weaponize your breaks. Your colleagues will use their breaks to complain, gossip, and consume sugar, further dulling their minds and spirits. You will use your breaks to advance the mission. A 15-minute tactical procession. A quiet moment to review your objectives. Do not participate in their ritualized mediocrity. They will not understand. They may call you obsessed. Let them. Their words are the death rattle of the weakness you are leaving behind. Every time you reject their offerings, you are not rejecting them. You are choosing your own reign. HD. The first test came on Wednesday. It was Brenda's birthday. A massive sheet cake with fluorescent pink frosting appeared in the break room, a sugary altar calling the herd to worship. The all-staff email went out. Come grab a slice and celebrate Brenda. The old Cassie would have been first in line, using the cake as a shield to engage in bland, safe conversation. She watched from her desk as her colleagues gathered. Her direct supervisor, a well-meaning but oblivious woman named Carol, caught her eye.
Cassie, you coming? Can't miss Brenda's cake.
All eyes turned to her. It was a loyalty test to the culture of mediocrity. She could feel the crushing weight of their expectation. Just say yes. Just be normal. Don't make waves. She stood up, feeling her heart start to pound. She walked toward the break room, and for a moment she thought she was going to break. She could almost taste the cloying sweetness. Then she saw her reflection in the dark screen of a locked monitor. She saw the woman who was still a work in progress, but whose eyes held a new, steady light. She thought of Alex's smile of respect. She thought of the feeling of victory after her first procession. She looked at Carol and the circle of expectant faces.
Happy birthday, Brenda.
She said, her voice calm and clear. Then she turned to Carol.
No, thank you. I appreciate the offer, though.
She turned and walked back to her desk. The silence behind her was a physical thing. She had just drawn a line in the sand. She was no longer one of them. The feeling wasn't loneliness, it was sovereignty. Later that afternoon, Alex from marketing appeared at her cubicle. This time, he wasn't smirking.
Heard you stared down the birthday cake, beast, and won,
He said, his tone one of genuine curiosity.
That takes willpower.
It's not willpower.
Cassie said, turning to face him.
It's a protocol.
He leaned against the wall, intrigued.
A protocol for what?
For building an empire.
She said, the words now feeling natural, true. He studied her for a moment, his gaze taking in the scepter on her desk, the focused intensity in her eyes.
You know, I'm headed to a new steakhouse a few blocks away for lunch tomorrow. I could use an empress's opinion on their infrastructure.
The old Cassie would have panicked, made excuses, convinced herself it was a prank. The new Cassie felt the familiar spike of fear, but her training in the forge had taught her something. Fear was just the feeling before you lifted something heavy.
I'll check my calendar,
She said, a small, confident smile touching her lips. The power to say yes was even greater than the power to say no. Chapter 10. The Dobson Protocol. Data is ammunition. The steakhouse was a world away from the office break room. It was dark wood, leather, and the low hum of power. Cassie sat opposite Alex, not as an admin, but as an equal. She had ordered a 12-ounce New York strip and a side of asparagus, a meal of pure fuel without apology. The conversation wasn't small talk. He was genuinely curious about her empire. She didn't tell him about the armor or the trauma. She told him about the protocol. She spoke of 1% shifts, of weaponizing sleep, of the brutal honesty of the forge. She spoke like a strategist detailing a successful campaign.
It's about data.
She explained, cutting into her steak.
For years, my life ran on feelings. I ate because I felt sad. I hid because I felt scared. Now, I run on data. Protein grams, hours of sleep, pounds on the bar. It's a cleaner operating system.
Alex, a man who lived and died by market analytics and KPIs, was captivated.
You're applying a business intelligence model to your own life,
He said, a look of profound respect in his eyes. The lunch was a victory. It was a conversation between two powerful people. As they walked out into the bright afternoon sun, she didn't feel like a fraud. She felt like a queen who had just concluded a successful diplomatic mission. But the war was never that simple. Later that afternoon, a high-stakes project she was coordinating went sideways. A critical vendor pulled out, threatening a major deadline. The pressure was immense. The old, familiar wave of anxiety washed over her, and with it a ghost craving, a visceral, desperate urge for the numbing sweetness of the peanut butter cups she had thrown out weeks ago. It was a phantom limb, an echo of an old coping mechanism. She fought it, using the breathing techniques Dobson had yet to teach her, but that she was discovering on her own. She got through the crisis, but it was a brutal, white-knuckle fight. Her report to Dobson that night was honest.
Victory on the social front, but the internal enemy launched a counterinsurgency. The old programming is still a threat. Cravings are a significant vulnerability.
The reply was waiting for her in the morning. Subject: ammunition. You have won a battle on foreign soil. Now you must quell the rebellion at home. Your cravings are not a moral failure. They are a biological signal. They are data. Your body, hardwired by years of your old protocol, is sending distress signals, demanding the fuel it was trained to expect. We will not fight this rebellion with willpower. We will crush it with superior firepower. You have armed yourself for reconstruction with the Night Ops arsenal. Now you will arm yourself for the daily campaign. A new supply drop is en route. It contains your daytime ammunition, semaglutide. Your 9th directive, weekly. The hormone of command. 1. Semaglutide. weakly. This is your strategic weapon against the biological noise of hunger and cravings. It is not a crutch for the weak, it is a force multiplier for the strong. It works by silencing the hormonal signals of hunger, ghrelin, and amplifying the signals of satiety, GLP-1. 2. The data of control. You have been running on the corrupted data of emotional cravings. Semaglutide cleans the signal. It allows your body's true data, its actual need for fuel, to be heard over the noise of your old programming. This is the final piece of the initial protocol. You are combining the raw, primal effort of iron, the advanced reconstruction of the night ops peptides, and now the hormonal command of semaglutide. You are no longer just building an empire. You are seizing control of its internal economy. Administer the first dose. Continue all other protocols. The rebellion ends today. HD. The new package arrived. Another vial, another syringe. This felt different. The night ops tools were for rebuilding. This was for control. This was for silencing the last ghost in the machine. She administered the dose with a steady hand. It was not an act of fear or hope, but of cold, calculated strategy. Her phone buzzed. A text from Alex.
The Empress was right. The infrastructure at that steakhouse is solid. Ready for a performance review this weekend?
She smiled, a real, genuine smile. She typed her reply without hesitation, her fingers flying across the screen. The craving, the anxiety, the ghost of the girl who would have panicked at such a message, they were all silent. There was only the Queen, calm and in command, ready for the next campaign. Chapter 11. The Supplement Edge, Force Multipliers. The performance review with Alex was at an outdoor art festival on Saturday. It was a landscape of potential ambushes, food trucks wafting the scent of fried dough, couples strolling hand in hand, and crowds of beautifully confident people. It was a world the old Cassie had only ever observed from the safety of her armor. Now she was walking through the heart of it, beside a man who moved through it with the effortless grace of a native. She felt calm. The semaglutide had done its work, silencing the biological noise of cravings. She no longer saw the food trucks as a threat, but simply as data points, irrelevant to her mission. The conversation flowed easily. He was intelligent, funny, and treated her not as a project to be fixed or a conquest to be won, but as an equal. For the first time, she felt herself lowering her guard, not out of weakness, but out of choice. Then the ambush came. As they rounded a corner, a voice from the past sliced through the air.
Oh my God! Cassie James, is that you?
It was Jessica, the queen bee of her high school, a woman who had perfected the art of the backhanded compliment. She was flawlessly preserved, flanked by a husband who looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine and two perfect children. Jessica's eyes did a quick, brutal calculus, scanning Cassie from head to toe. Cassie was 20 pounds lighter, but she was still a work in progress. She wasn't wearing a flowing top to hide her shape. She was wearing a fitted t-shirt that showed the new, hard-earned lines of her shoulders and back. She was visible.
Wow, Cassie.
Jessica said, her voice dripping with saccharine pity.
It is so good to see you. You are looking so healthy.
She glanced at Alex, a flicker of confusion and dismissal in her eyes, before turning back to Cassie with a bright, predatory smile. It was a social kill shot, delivered with surgical precision. It was the same weapon that had been used on her 1,000 times, the one that had always sent her retreating back into the safety of her armor. And for a horrifying second, it worked. The shieldmaiden vanished, and the scared, fat girl from high school took her place. A cold wave of shame washed over her. She wanted to shrink, to make a self-deprecating joke, to apologize for her very existence. Her gaze dropped to the pavement, but this time something was different. A new voice, quiet but clear, rose through the noise of her panic. It was the voice of the Queen, forged in the quiet darkness of engineered sleep, fueled by protein and fortified by weeks of discipline. She took a single, tactical breath. It wasn't a formal sequence, but a new, instinctual protocol. She lifted her chin and met Jessica's gaze. The pity in Jessica's eyes was a pathetic, rusted weapon against the steel she was now forging.
It's good to see you too, Jessica.
Cassie said, her voice a low, steady calm that shocked them both.
I'm not healthy. I'm powerful. There's a difference.
She turned to Alex, a small, genuine smile on her face.
This is Alex. We were just heading to the sculpture garden.
She didn't introduce him as a friend or a date. She simply stated his presence, an undeniable fact. She was with him. He was with her. The power dynamic of the entire encounter shifted on its axis. Jessica was left speechless, her social grenade disarmed and useless in her hand. As they walked away, the silence between her and Alex wasn't awkward. It was charged.
So, that was a ghost from the past.
He asked, his voice quiet.
A ghost I just exorcised.
Cassie said, the words feeling truer than anything she'd ever said. She had been tested. And for the first time in her life, she hadn't retreated. She had held the line. But as the adrenaline faded, a deep cellular exhaustion set in. Holding the line had taken everything she had. She had won, but the victory felt fragile. Her report to Dobson was a single honest sentence. Held the line, but the cost was high. The mental armor is thin. The reply was, as always, a new directive.
Subject: ammunition. You have mistaken the nature of the war. You believe victory is an event. It is not. It is a process of fortification. You withstood a psychological assault because your discipline has grown. But you are exhausted because your brain chemistry is still undersupplied. You built the engine, but you are still using contaminated fuel. A mind running on deficient micronutrients cannot maintain resilience under fire. Confidence is not just a thought. It is a neurochemical state. Your focus shatters and your resolve wavers because you lack the raw materials to maintain that state. Your 10th directive, immediate. Fortify the mind. 1. Procure the support stack. Multivitamin, multimineral, essential amino acids. These are not optional. They are as critical as protein. 2. Minerals are your mental armor. Magnesium for calm. Zinc for hormonal balance. Vitamins are the catalysts for every neurological process. 3. Amino acids are the building blocks of your neurotransmitters, the very chemicals that govern your mood, focus, and resolve. You were not almost defeated by Jessica. You were almost defeated by a cortisol spike that your undernourished brain could not sustain. You will not make that mistake again. You will arm your mind as rigorously as you arm your body. This is how you turn a fragile victory into an unbreakable fortress. HD.
Chapter 12. Cravings Control, Mastering the Mind. The victory over Jessica felt like a hollow shell. Cassie had won the battle, but she knew she had almost broken. The exhaustion Dobson diagnosed was real, a deep soul weariness that reminded her how fragile her new identity still was. Dobson's email was a diagnosis, not a judgment. You were almost defeated by a cortisol spike that your undernourished brain could not sustain. It reframed her near failure from a character flaw into a logistical problem. The next morning, she was at a supplement store when it opened. She bought the 3 bottles. Multivitamin, multimineral, essential amino acids. With the same quiet determination, she'd bought her first load of chicken and eggs. She wasn't buying hope, she was buying the raw materials for her mental armor. The effect was subtle, not a lightning bolt of confidence, but a slow, steady fortification. Over the next few days, as she continued her relentless protocols, the memory of Jessica's ambush began to fade. It was still a scar, but it no longer throbbed with shame. Her focus at work sharpened. Her mood, which had been prone to sudden dips, began to stabilize. She felt grounded. The war, however, simply opened a new front. Her body, now properly fueled and recovering, was no longer the primary battlefield. The enemy had retreated to its final stronghold, her mind. The old stories, the old urges, the deeply ingrained habit of using food as a shield against feeling. They began to launch guerrilla attacks. A stressful meeting would trigger a phantom craving for chocolate. A lonely evening would whisper the siren song of a pizza delivery app. She was winning the physical war, but the psychological insurgency was relentless. Then the next directive arrived.
Subject: the inner citadel. You have fortified your body. You have fortified your brain chemistry. Now you will fortify the commander's post, your mind. The system has trained you to be a slave to your impulses. A craving for sugar, a craving for comfort, a craving for the validation of others. They are all the same enemy. They are signals from the weak, undisciplined part of you that has been in command your entire life. You will now learn to starve that enemy. Your 11th directive. Daily. The 10-minute siege.
1. Each morning, immediately upon waking, you will sit. In a chair on the floor, it does not matter. You will set a timer for 10 minutes. 2. You will close your eyes and do nothing. You will focus only on your breath. 3. Your mind will rebel. It will flood you with 1,000 distractions. Thoughts about work, anxieties, memories of failure, urges to check your phone. This is the enemy army attacking the walls of your inner citadel. 4. You will not fight these thoughts. You will not engage them. You will simply observe them, like a watchwoman on a castle wall observing the enemy horde. Acknowledge them, and then return your focus to your breath. The breath is your fortress.
This is not meditation. This is a training exercise in non-reaction. You are teaching yourself that a thought is not a command. An urge is not an order. A craving is not a necessity. You are creating a space between impulse and action. In that space, a queen's sovereignty is forged. You have cravings for sugar. You have cravings for the approval of men. You will now learn that you are the commander, not the craving. You decide which orders are followed.
H.D. Cassie thought it was the strangest directive yet. 10 minutes of doing nothing. But the protocol was the protocol. The next morning, she sat on the edge of her bed in the pre-dawn darkness and set her phone timer. It was psychological warfare. Her mind was a hornet's nest. Did I remember to reply to Carol's email? What if Alex thinks I'm boring? God, I was so stupid in front of Jessica. I should check my bank account. The urge to just do something was a physical itch. She kept pulling her focus back to her breath. Inhale, exhale. The thoughts would swarm, and she would gently, firmly guide her attention back. It was harder than any set of squats. When the timer chimed, she was mentally exhausted. She did it again the next day, and the next. Slowly, a change began. The space between the hornets grew longer. She started to see her anxious thoughts not as absolute truths, but as clouds passing in the sky. They were events, not her identity. On Friday, a crisis hit at work. A critical server failed, jeopardizing a massive data transfer. Panic erupted. People were blaming, stressing, spinning in circles. The old Cassie would have been the first to drown in the anxiety, her first impulse to find a donut. The new Cassie felt the familiar spike of adrenaline, the tightening in her chest. But the morning's training kicked in. She observed the panic. She acknowledged it. And then she returned her focus to her breath. She walked over to her supervisor's desk, past the chaos.
Carol,
She said, her voice a calm, clear signal through the noise.
what's the first 1% of the problem we can solve right now?
Carol looked up, her face a mask of stress.
What?
The very first step.
Cassie repeated.
Let's just get the backup server online. The rest will follow.
The simple, clear command cut through the panic. It was a foothold. It was a plan. The victory was profound. It was a win forged not in the forge, but in the quiet 10-minute battles she had been fighting in her mind every morning. She had met a real-world ambush, not with a retreat, but with a calm, strategic advance. She knew she had to face her other fear. She drove to the grocery store that night, her heart pounding. She had been avoiding it, avoiding Maya, hiding from the ghost of her near failure with Jessica. She found Alex in the produce section, looking intently at a bunch of kale. She walked right up to him. She didn't wait for him to notice her.
Hey,
She said. He looked up, a slow, genuine smile spreading across his face.
The Empress? I was wondering when you'd be back to survey your domain.
I had to fortify the inner citadel first.
She said. The words felt true. She hadn't been hiding from him. She had been preparing.
Well,
He said, putting the kale in his cart.
The fortress looks secure. How about that performance review this weekend?
I'm free on Saturday.
she said, her voice steady. She wasn't just accepting a date, she was commanding her own social life on her own terms from a place of strength. The cravings for validation, for comfort, for escape, they were all silent. There was only the Queen in her inner citadel, finally in command. Chapter 13. Stress Under Command, Weaponizing Calm. The date with Alex was a victory, but it left Cassie feeling unsettled. The calm confidence she had projected felt like a mask she was still learning to wear. It was heavy. The next Monday morning at work, the weight of that mask became crushing. Carol, her supervisor, called her into a small windowless office.
Cassie, I'm so thrilled to tell you that management has approved a new role and we all feel you're the perfect fit. We're promoting you to department project lead.
The old Cassie would have been flooded with gratitude, shock, and a paralyzing wave of imposter syndrome. The new Cassie felt the familiar spike of adrenaline, the thud of fear in her chest. A promotion wasn't a reward, it was a bigger arena with bigger monsters.
The first monster is a big one.
Carol continued, oblivious to Cassie's internal storm.
The quarterly systems audit has been moved up. It's not due in 2 weeks. It's due Friday.
It was a test, a grenade tossed into her lap on the first day of her new reign. The room felt small, the air thick. The old urge to shrink, to apologize, to somehow make the problem go away by diminishing herself, rose like a ghost. As if on cue, a new email from Dobson arrived, the subject line a single powerful command.
Subject: the eye of the storm. You have been promoted. Do not celebrate. A promotion is not a reward. It is a heavier crown. It comes with greater responsibility and a higher caliber of enemy. The system teaches you to fear stress. It tells you to seek a stress-free life. This is a lie designed for the weak. Stress is merely pressure. It is a neutral force. Like gravity, it can crush you, or it can be used to create immense power. Weightlifting is the application of controlled physical stress to force muscle growth. The stress of your new position is no different. It is an opportunity to forge mental and emotional muscle. You will not avoid it. You will harness it. Your 12th directive, as needed. Tactical breathing. 1. Before any high-stress event, a difficult meeting, a confrontation, a critical decision, you will find 60 seconds. 2. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4. 3. Hold your breath for a count of 4. 4. Exhale through your mouth for a count of 4. 4. 5. Hold the exhale for a count of 4. 6. Repeat for 1 minute. This is a physiological reset. It is a manual override of your body's panic response, the sympathetic nervous system, and an activation of your body's calm, focused state, the parasympathetic nervous system. It lowers cortisol and clears the mind. Stress creates a storm of panicked thoughts. This technique is how you find the eye of that storm. From that place of calm, a queen can command the chaos instead of being consumed by it. You will weaponize calm. H.D.
Cassie looked at Carol, whose expectant face was beginning to cloud with concern at her silence. She took one deliberate silent breath. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. The storm in her mind quieted. The roaring in her ears subsided. Clarity returned. She was in the eye.
Okay.
Cassie said, her voice a low, steady calm that surprised them both.
Thank you, Carol. I accept the position. Cancel my afternoon meetings. I want the entire team in the main conference room in 5 minutes. We're going to wargame this deadline.
Carol's jaw dropped slightly. She had expected a flustered administrator. She got a queen. In the conference room, Cassie didn't project authority. She commanded the space. She laid out the problem on the whiteboard, not as a crisis, but as a clear objective. She turned to the team, a group of people who had only ever seen her as quiet, reliable Cassie.
This is the objective.
She said, her voice ringing with newfound power.
I don't have all the answers, but I know this room does. Brenda, you've handled more of these audits than anyone. What's our single biggest bottleneck?
She had taken the most stressful situation of her career and transformed it into her first act of command. She wasn't panicking, she wasn't hiding, she was leading. That night she met Alex for dinner. It wasn't a performance review, it was a real date. He had made a reservation at a restaurant with a view of the city skyline. She told him about the promotion, the impossible deadline, and the battle she had won not by being the smartest person in the room, but by being the calmest.
It's the same as when you're under a heavy barbell.
He said, his eyes bright with understanding.
The first thing to go is your breath. You panic, you lose tightness, you fail the lift. But if you can control your breath, you can control the weight.
She looked at him across the table, this powerful, intelligent man who saw her, who understood the war she was fighting. He didn't see the armor she used to wear. He only saw the Queen, sitting in the eye of the storm, exactly where she belonged. Chapter 14. Battlefield Awareness, Tracking the Mission. The victory over the audit deadline was a brutal, caffeine-fueled triumph. They made it with 3 hours to spare, and the client was impressed. But Cassie felt the cost in her first Sunday debrief as a leader. The data was damning. Physical, workouts completed, 1/3. Protein decrees met, 2/7. Sleep score, 4 out of 10. Personal, time with Alex, 1 dinner, cancelled 1 gym session. Psychological, 10-minute sieges missed, 4. Mental state, 5 out of 10, exhausted but wired. She had won the professional battle by sacrificing every other front. She was succeeding at her job by failing her own mission. The promotion wasn't a heavier crown, it was becoming a heavier anchor, dragging her back down into the mediocrity she'd fought so hard to escape. Complacency hadn't just crept in, it had launched a full-scale invasion under the guise of professional responsibility. The email from Dobson was waiting for her, as if he had read her logbook over her shoulder.
Subject: The Queen's Fallacy. You believe you are managing a crisis. You are not. You are managing a kingdom. A crisis is a single event. A kingdom is a living system that requires constant attention on all fronts. You sacrificed your foundational disciplines, physical and mental, for a short-term professional victory. This is the Queen's fallacy, believing you can neglect your own well-being and still effectively rule your kingdom. You cannot. Your energy, your clarity, your resilience, these are not infinite resources. They are generated daily through the protocols. By abandoning them, you are ruling on borrowed time. Soon the debt will come due and your kingdom will fracture. A true queen has total battlefield awareness. She knows that a failure on one front will inevitably lead to collapse on another. You are flying blind, reacting to enemy movements instead of commanding the field. Your 13th directive, weekly. The War Room. 1. Your Sunday debrief is no longer just a logbook, it is your war room. 2. You will not just record the data, you will analyze it. Identify the point of failure. Why did you miss the workout? Poor time management. Why did you miss the protein decree? Lack of preparation. 3. You will then formulate a 1% counter strategy for the coming week. Example: failure, missed workout due to late meeting. Counter strategy: schedule workouts in my work calendar as non-negotiable royal appointments. 4. Your whiteboard in your office is your forward command post. You will write your top 3 professional KPIs and your top 3 mission KPIs on it each week. They will stare you in the face every day. The mission and the job must coexist. What gets measured gets managed. You are now the project lead. It is time you applied the same ruthless integrity to the data of your own life. HD.
The directive was a brutal but necessary course correction. The next morning, Cassie walked into her new office and divided her whiteboard in 2. On the left, under Q4 Audit, she listed the team's objectives. On the right, under Royal Protocol, she wrote, Workouts 3 out of 3, protein 7 out of 7, sleep score 8/10 plus. She stared at the two lists. They were not in conflict, they were symbiotic. The woman who could achieve the list on the right was the only one capable of leading the team to achieve the list on the left. Her strength was the company's asset. Her well-being was a strategic imperative. That evening, she was scheduled to work late. An hour before she was supposed to meet Alex at the gym, her phone rang. It was Carol.
Cassie, we have a server issue. I need you to stay.
The old Cassie would have surrendered. The recently promoted Cassie would have seen it as part of the job. But the queen who had just come from her war room saw it as a tactical choice.
I can give you 1 more hour, Carol.
Cassie said, her voice firm.
My hard stop is 6 p.m. It's a non-negotiable protocol I have in place for project readiness. I'll delegate the initial diagnostics to the night team, and we can reassess at 0700.
She had framed her personal discipline in the language of professional strategy. It wasn't a personal need. It was a protocol for readiness.
Understood,
Carol said, a new note of respect in her voice.
6 p.m. it is.
She met Alex at the forge. She was a few minutes late, but she was there. As she watched him warm up for his deadlifts, she realized the gym wasn't just a throne room anymore. It was her foundation.
Everything okay?
He asked, noticing the lingering intensity in her eyes.
Just recalibrating the mission.
She said. She understood now. The war wasn't a series of isolated battles. It was a single integrated campaign, and a queen had to be in command of every front to win. Chapter 15. The War Council, Power of the Pack. 3 months into the protocol, Cassie had shed 40 pounds of armor. The woman in the mirror was no longer a stranger. She was an ally in the making. The soft, undefined mass that had been her shield was being replaced by hard lines and the dense promise of muscle. She was down 3 dress sizes. Her face had a jawline. The changes were no longer subtle. They were undeniable. She had become a ruthlessly effective commander of her own life, a master of logistics and discipline. But she was still a lone operator. Her relationship with Alex was a sanctuary, and her team at work was functional, but she was fighting the war alone. The email that marked the beginning of Phase 3 arrived on a Monday. Its subject line a single provocative word.
Subject: Queens. You have forged yourself into a formidable shieldmaiden. You follow orders. You execute the mission. You have achieved more than 99% of people will ever attempt. But a shieldmaiden, no matter how skilled, is still just a soldier. She does not win the war. The system romanticizes the lone wolf. This is a lie to keep strong women isolated and ineffective. A single wolf is a threat. A pack is a force of nature. A lone warrior can win a battle. A council of warriors can conquer an empire. You have reached the limits of what you can accomplish alone. To achieve total dominance, you must evolve from a soldier into a queen. And a queen's greatest strength is not her own arm, but her war council. Your 14th directive. Assemble your council. 1. A queen does not surround herself with sycophants. She surrounds herself with experts and killers. You will formally recruit a council of 2. 2. The royal consort. Your relationship with Alex is your greatest asset, but you still treat him as a civilian. This is a mistake. He is an expert in his own field of battle. You will formally ask him to be your partner, not just your boyfriend. You will transform your romance into an alliance. 3. The Minister of War. Your greatest adversary at work is Brenda. She is also your most valuable asset. She is resentful, but she is sharp. You will convert her. Take her off the battlefield. You will meet her for lunch and make her an offer. You will name her your deputy. You will not ask for her friendship. You will demand her loyalty by empowering her. Her new directive will be to find the flaws in your plans before the enemy does. A soldier is afraid to show weakness. A queen leverages the strengths of others to cover her own. You will stop being a soldier. You will assemble your council. You will start thinking like a queen. HD.
The directive was a paradigm shift. For months, the war had been internal. Now Dobson was ordering her to open her gates and let others in. The vulnerability was terrifying. She started with Alex. That night, after a punishing session at the forge, she didn't just kiss him goodbye. She sat him down on a bench, her royal ledger in hand.
Alex,
She began, her voice serious.
this mission, it's the most important thing I've ever done. And I've been treating you like you're just a welcome distraction from it. That's an insult to you and a strategic error for me. I want to ask you to be more than my boyfriend. I want to ask you to be my partner in this, my ally.
She opened the notebook, showing him the pages of data, the KPIs, from her war room.
This is the operating system. I want you in it. I need your perspective, your strategy. I'm not asking for a cheerleader. I'm asking for a consort.
Alex was silent for a long moment, looking from the logbook to her face. A slow, powerful smile spread across his lips.
Okay, my queen.
He said, his voice low.
First thing we're doing is integrating our calendars. An empire needs a unified command.
The next day, she took Brenda to the steakhouse. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife.
What's this about, Cassie?
Brenda asked, dispensing with pleasantries.
It's about my royal court.
Cassie said, sliding a piece of paper across the table. On it, she had drawn a simple organizational chart for the department. Her name was at the top. Directly below her was a new box, Deputy Project Lead. Inside the box, she had written Brenda's name.
I'm not a manager, Brenda.
Cassie said.
I'm a strategist. I'm good at seeing the whole battlefield. You are the best tactical mind in this department. You see the details I miss. You see the vulnerabilities. I don't need another analyst who does what I say. I need a lieutenant. I need someone whose job is to tell me I'm wrong, to poke holes in my strategies so we can patch them before the client does. I want you to be my minister of war.
Brenda stared at the paper, then back at Cassie, her cynical mask cracking for the first time. She had spent her career being the smartest, most critical person in the room, and it had earned her nothing but a reputation for being difficult. Cassie wasn't just offering her a title, she was offering her a purpose for her greatest strength.
Okay, boss.
Brenda said, the word boss now carrying a different weight, not of sarcasm, but of allegiance.
The first thing you're wrong about is the timeline for the Q3 projections. It's a complete fantasy.
That Sunday, Cassie conducted her mission debrief. But she wasn't alone. Alex was on the sofa next to her, analyzing her sleep data and suggesting a 1% shift in her evening routine. And on her calendar for Monday at 0800 was a new recurring meeting, War Council with Brenda. She had opened the gates. Her fortress was no longer a solitary outpost. It was becoming a command center. She sent her report to Dobson.
The council is assembled.
The reply was a single sentence.
A queen who fights her own battles is a fool. A queen who builds a council of lions is a ruler.
Chapter 16, Momentum, Acknowledging Victories. Life with a war council was brutally effective. With Alex as her consort and strategic ally, her personal life began to have the same data-driven precision as her mission. At work, Brenda, now armed with purpose, became a force of nature. She didn't just find flaws, she anticipated them, transforming from a cynical critic into an essential shield. The pack was winning. Their division's efficiency metrics skyrocketed. Cassie, in the forge with Alex's expert eye on her form, shattered her old lifting numbers. The armor was melting away, revealing the powerful queen beneath. But Cassie never felt like a winner. Her training under Dobson had conditioned her to see every victory as a mere consolidation of gains, a stepping stone to the next hill to take. She hit a new personal record on her deadlift, and her only thought was that her form on the last rep was 1% less than perfect. She and Brenda received a formal commendation from their VP, and her only thought was about the looming Q1 projections. She was executing the mission, but she was devoid of the satisfaction of progress. She was a machine, running a protocol, and she was beginning to rust. The email from Dobson arrived after she logged a particularly significant week in her war room debrief. A new lifting milestone and a major professional victory, both of which she had rated with cold, emotionless neutrality. Subject: the spoils of war. Your progress is accelerating, your counsel is effective, but your mindset is still that of a prisoner. You complete an objective and immediately brace for the next punishment. This discipline has served you, but it is incomplete. An army that fights without reward will eventually break. A soldier who never tastes the spoils of victory will lose her will to fight. You are confusing celebration with acknowledgement. The amateur celebrates to feel good. The Queen acknowledges victory to build momentum. Momentum is a strategic asset. It is the psychological force that turns a series of small wins into an unstoppable campaign. It is built not just by winning, but by recognizing the win. This recognition reinforces the behavior that led to victory, both for you and for your council. Your 15th directive, the ritual of acknowledgement. 1. You will establish a weekly ritual to acknowledge the victories of your war council. 2. The Minister of War. At the end of your weekly war council meeting with Brenda, you will spend the final 5 minutes acknowledging the biggest professional win. You will explicitly credit her for her contribution. You will record this victory in a shared document, a book of wins, so a tangible record of momentum is built. 3. The Royal Consort. Acknowledge your own physical victories. For years you have seen your body as a source of shame. You have avoided mirrors hidden in loose clothing. That protocol is obsolete. After your final workout of the week, you will stand before a full-length mirror, stripped of all armor, and you will identify one physical change you have forged. A line of muscle, a curve that is now powerful instead of soft. You will acknowledge it out loud. A soldier follows orders because she has to. A lioness follows a queen because she gets to share in the kill. By acknowledging Brenda's victories, you bind her to your mission with respect. By acknowledging your own, you finally declare that the body you are building is no longer a prison, but a palace. HD. The directive was terrifying. The thought of standing naked before a mirror, an object she had associated with self-loathing her entire life, felt more intimidating than walking into the forge. She started with the easier task. At the end of her meeting with Brenda, she pulled up a new document titled Royal Court Book of Wins.
Before we wrap,
Cassie said,
new protocol. We're logging victories. The biggest win last week was catching the flaw in the vendor's invoicing system. That was your analysis, Brenda. It saved us from a crisis. It's a major win for this department.
She typed a summary into the document.
It's in the book.
Brenda looked at the screen, at her name next to a documented success. For the first time, Cassie saw the deep-seated resentment in Brenda's eyes recede, replaced by a flicker of something else: ownership. That night, after a grueling workout with Alex, she stood in her bathroom, the door locked, her heart hammering. The final part of the directive. For 20 years, she had undressed in the dark, or with her back to the mirror. To be naked, to be seen even by herself, was an act of radical vulnerability. She closed her eyes and took a tactical breath. I choose to be powerful, not just protected. She opened her eyes and looked. She didn't see the soft, formless woman she expected. She saw architecture, the distinct curve of her deltoids forged from hundreds of presses and rows. The hard line of her quadriceps, built by squatting weight she never thought possible. The armor was gone, and in its place something powerful was being built.
My shoulders.
She whispered to the empty room, the words feeling foreign and powerful.
They're strong.
She didn't feel shame, she felt pride. When she walked into her bedroom, Alex was there, waiting. He looked up at her, and his gaze was different. It wasn't just the loving look of a boyfriend. It was the appreciative, expert eye of a fellow athlete. His gaze wasn't a threat. It was an acknowledgement. For her entire life, the gaze of a man on her naked body had been a source of terror, a ghost of a memory that had driven her to build a fortress of flesh. But his gaze wasn't taking, it was giving. It was a silent testament to the work she had done, to the queen she was becoming. It wasn't just exhilarating, it was a coronation. In his eyes, she was not a target. She was a work of art, forged in iron and fire. And for the first time in her life, she didn't want to hide. She wanted to be seen. Chapter 17. Breaking formation, smashing plateaus. 5 months, 47 pounds of armor shed. Cassie stood on the precipice of her objective, 3 pounds away from the 50-pound mark that had once seemed impossible. She was a queen in her own small kingdom, with an effective council and undeniable momentum. And then the world stopped moving. For 1 week, the number on the scale didn't change, 201.0. She logged it in her war room debrief. Anomaly. The second week, the same, 201.0. Frustration began to creep in. The third week, after a week of even stricter discipline and more punishing workouts, the number was 201.2. She had gained. The plateau was not just a physical reality, it was a psychological assault. The 1% rule, the foundational principle of her entire transformation, had failed her. Every protocol was being executed with monastic devotion, but the results had stopped. The machine was grinding, but it was no longer advancing. Her frustration bled into every front. In the forge, she pushed too hard, chasing numbers her body couldn't hit, and a sharp, angry pain flared in her shoulder. She snapped at Alex when he tried to correct her form.
I'm doing it right.
She barked, the words tasting like poison as soon as they left her mouth. At work, her calm, strategic command faltered. She dismissed one of Brenda's concerns as too negative, only to have that exact issue blow up into a minor client crisis 2 days later. The momentum was gone, replaced by a grim, joyless slog. Her Sunday report to Dobson was a testament to her frustration.
Stalled on all fronts. Protocols ineffective. The 1% rule has failed. Morale critical.
The reply came faster than usual.
Subject: the good soldier.
You are acting like a good soldier. You are executing the last order you were given with perfect discipline, even as the battlefield has changed around you. A good soldier will march straight into a machine gun nest if ordered. She will die with honor, and she will lose the war.
A plateau is not a failure of discipline. It is a sign that the enemy, your body, has adapted to your tactics. It has reinforced its defenses. A soldier's response is to hit the wall harder. A queen's response is to change the angle of attack. The 1% rule is how you build an army, but when that army meets a fortified wall, you do not send one more soldier at a time. You break formation. You introduce chaos. You shock the system. Your 16th directive. The pattern interrupt. 1. For the next 48 hours, you will break protocol. This is a controlled demolition. 2. The strategic refeed. Tomorrow, you will double your carbohydrate intake. This is not a cheat day. It is a calculated metabolic shock. You will eat clean carbs, rice, potatoes, oats. You are signaling to your body that the famine is over, resetting the hormones that have slowed your metabolism in response to sustained fat loss. 3. The unconventional assault. Your next workout will not involve your usual lifts. You will find a hill. You will sprint up it 10 times. You will want to quit after 3. This is not about building muscle. It is about redlining your entire system, a shock to your central nervous system. This will feel wrong. It will feel like a betrayal of the discipline you have forged. Good. Your comfort with the routine has become the enemy. A queen must be willing to sacrifice a tactic to save the strategy. Break the pattern. Shock the system. Get the line moving again. HD.
Cassie showed the email to Alex.
This is insane.
She said.
Eat more? Stop lifting? It goes against everything.
Alex read it, his expression unreadable. Then he looked up at her.
A good coach knows when to change the playbook,
He said.
Your body thinks it's in a long, slow siege. It's gotten efficient. It's holding on to every resource. Dobson is telling it the siege is over and a new war just started.
The next day felt like a crime. She ate a massive bowl of oatmeal for breakfast and sweet potatoes with her chicken for lunch. She felt bloated and soft, the psychological weight of the carbs far heavier than their physical reality. That evening, Alex didn't take her to the forge. He took her to a steep, grassy hill in a park overlooking the city.
10 sprints,
He said, a commander's glint in his eye.
all the way to the top. I'll time you.
The first sprint was exhilarating, a burst of power. The second was brutal. By the fourth, her lungs were on fire, her legs filled with lead, and the old, weak voice screamed at her to stop. This wasn't the controlled, powerful grind of lifting. It was chaotic, primal agony. She collapsed at the top of the seventh sprint, gasping on the wet grass.
I can't.
She choked out. Alex stood over her, not with sympathy, but with the cold eyes of an ally in the forge.
Dobson didn't say, sprint 7 times, Cassie. The directive was 10. Get up.
His words were a shock of cold water. He wasn't her boyfriend right now. He was her consort, her fellow commander, holding her to the standard she had set for herself. She staggered to her feet and completed the final 3 sprints in a haze of pain and pure, defiant will. The next morning, she was more sore than she had been in months, a deep, systemic ache. She stumbled to the scale, expecting the worst. The number was 199.5. She had dropped 1.5 pounds. She went to the forge with Alex that Friday. She felt different, energized. He loaded the bar for her hip thrusts, a weight she hadn't been able to move for weeks. She got under the bar, took her tactical breath, and engaged her glutes. The weight felt light. She drove up with a power that shocked her, the plates clanging with authority. The plateau wasn't just broken, it was annihilated. She understood. The 1% rule wasn't a single, unchanging law. It was the foundation. But on top of that foundation, a true queen had to know when to break the rules, when to abandon the proven tactic for a bold, unconventional assault. It wasn't about discipline alone. It was about the wisdom to know when discipline needed to be disrupted. Chapter 18, The Coronation Becoming the 1%. 6 months to the day, 180 days of war. Cassie stood before the scale in the pre-dawn silence of her apartment. It was no longer an instrument of judgment, but a simple data collection device. She took a tactical breath and stepped on. The numbers flickered and then settled. 198.0. She had shed exactly 50 pounds of armor. She stared at the number, expecting a surge of elation, a triumphant roar. Instead, there was only a profound, quiet stillness. The objective had been met. The mission, as stated, was complete. She stepped off the scale and walked to the bathroom mirror, where the faded 6-month-old decree was still taped.
I will shed 50 pounds of armor by date 6 months from today, because I choose to be powerful, not just protected.
She looked at the woman in the reflection. The face was hers, but the architecture was different. The puffiness was gone, replaced by the hard angles of a woman who lived on protein and iron. The eyes were the biggest change. The old, haunted look of the prisoner was gone. In its place was the calm, steady gaze of a queen. She was no longer hiding because she could finally bear to be seen. This was the coronation. It wasn't a crown being placed on her head. It was the quiet internal acknowledgement that the woman in the mirror was no longer an imposter. The identity she had been forging, 1% at a time, was now her own. Later that day, on her tactical lunch break procession, her phone buzzed. It was a text from a number she didn't recognize.
Cassie? It's Jessica. I saw you the other day. You look amazing. We should catch up.
She read the message, and the ghost of her old self flinched, the memory of shame a phantom limb. But the queen felt nothing. Not anger, not triumph, only a distant clinical detachment. Jessica's validation, which would have once been a life raft, was now irrelevant. It was a signal from a world she no longer inhabited. She deleted the message without replying. Jessica was a ghost. She was real. That evening, the final email of the initial protocol arrived from Dobson. Subject, the end of the beginning.
Objective met. The woman who began this mission is gone. You have unmade her, one disciplined decision at a time. The body you inhabit now is the monument to her liberation.
But the war is not over. The system is always trying to reclaim its lost citizens. The old you, the prisoner, is always waiting for an opening.
Your transformation is not complete until it becomes your identity. A diet is something you do. An identity is something you are. You no longer eat healthy. You are a woman who fuels her reign. You no longer go to the gym. You are a woman who forges her throne. This is the final, most important 1% shift. Your 17th directive, the coronation. 1. Take down the decree on your mirror. That was the declaration of a shield maiden going to war. That war is won. 2. In its place, you will write a new declaration. Not an objective, but an identity. Who are you now? Define the woman you have become in a single, powerful sentence. The protocols are no longer orders you follow. They are the operating system of who you are. This is the final stage of the mission. This is how you become the 1%.
H.D. Cassie walked to her bathroom mirror and carefully peeled the old decree from the glass. She read it one last time, a relic from a life that was no longer hers, and let it fall into the trash. She took out a new piece of stationery and the same pen. She didn't have to think. She knew who she was. She wrote the words, the letters sharp and sovereign.
I am the architect.
She taped it to the mirror. She wasn't a shield maiden following a map anymore. She was the one who would now draw it. She went to the forge to meet Alex. He was at the deadlift platform, chalk on his hands, his face a mask of intense focus as he prepared to pull a heavy weight from the floor. She didn't interrupt. She just watched, a profound sense of respect and admiration washing over him. He wasn't just a handsome manager, he was a fellow ruler in his own right, commanding his own territory of iron. When he finished his set, he saw her, and a smile broke through his focus.
Objective met,
she said, her voice quiet. He didn't cheer or congratulate her, he just nodded, the acknowledgement of one commander to another.
Good,
He said.
the beginning is over. Now the real work starts.
She knew he was right. Shedding the armor was just the first campaign. Now it was time to build an empire. Chapter 19, The Legacy Protocol, Building an Empire. The weeks after her coronation were a new kind of war. The objective was no longer to shed armor, but to build an empire. She and Alex worked to slowly increase her calories, fueling the forging of new muscle. The number on the scale crept up, from 198 to 205, but the woman in the mirror was leaner, harder, more powerful. It was the difference between being a shield maiden who survived the battle and a queen securing her territory. She commanded her department with a quiet, data-driven authority. Her war council with Brenda was brutally efficient, their book of wins growing with each passing week. She was a success. She was in control, and she was restless. She felt like a queen who had fortified her castle but had no empire to rule. The 1% rule had transformed her, but she was still the sole subject of its power. The restlessness crystallized during a team meeting. She was looking at a junior project coordinator named Sarah, brilliant with raw data, but quiet, overlooked, and radiating the same signal of apologetic invisibility Cassie had broadcast for years. She was the ghost of Cassie's past, sitting right there in her conference room. That night, her report to Dobson was not a list of KPIs. It was a question.
I have built a kingdom of one. How do I build an empire?
The reply was the first one that ever began with a single word of praise. Subject, legacy.
Excellent. You have reached the final stage. The shield maiden fights for herself. The queen fights for her kingdom. The empress fights for a legacy, a system, a culture that outlasts her.
An empire is not built by conquering new lands. It is built by exporting your operating system. You do not build an empire by commanding soldiers. You build it by forging new queens. Your legacy will not be the body you built for yourself, but the number of women you teach to build their own. Your 18th directive, the Legacy Protocol. 1. Identify a candidate, someone who is where you were 6 months ago, competent but weak, potential buried under layers of mediocrity. You have already identified her, Sarah. 2. You will not mentor her. Mentorship is what the system sells. It is soft. You will take her as your protégé, your apprentice. You will forge her. 3. Export the protocol. You will apply the Dobson protocol to her professional life. You will conduct an assessment of her workflow. You will institute a scorched earth protocol on her time-wasting tasks. You will give her a protein mandate, a single high-leverage project that becomes her non-negotiable focus. You will give her clear, measurable objectives and demand ruthless honesty in her progress reports. Brenda will tell you it's a waste of time. She will tell you some women can't be forged. She is your spy master, and her duty is to see threats. Your duty as queen is to see potential where others see only weakness. This is the true test of your identity as the architect. A craftsman can build a perfect house for herself. An architect can design a city that empowers thousands. Stop building your house. Start designing your city. HD. The next day, Cassie called Sarah into her office. Sarah shuffled in, her posture apologetic, her eyes fixed on the carpet.
Sarah,
Cassie began, her voice calm and direct.
your raw data analysis is the best on this team, but your project output is in the bottom 20%. Why?
Sarah stammered, her face flushing.
I get caught up in a lot of the cross-departmental requests.
The noise.
Cassie said, cutting through the excuse.
From now on, you work for me. Only for me. All other requests are to be forwarded to my desk. That's your scorched earth. Now for your protein mandate.
Cassie turned to the whiteboard.
This is the new vendor integration project Brenda identified. It's complex and it's critical. It's your sole focus. I don't care if the building is on fire. Your job is this project. I want a 1% progress report on my desk at the end of every day. Clear?
Sarah looked from the whiteboard to Cassie, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and, for the first time, a flicker of purpose.
Yes, ma'am,
she whispered. Cassie left her office and walked past Brenda's desk.
Wasting your time.
Brenda said without looking up from her screen.
The girl's a ghost.
I was a ghost.
Cassie replied, not breaking her stride.
And ghosts can learn to haunt.
She went to the forge that night, a new energy coursing through her. She was no longer just forging her throne. She was building an army, and it was the most power she had ever felt. Chapter 20, The Final Conquest, dominating all arenas. 1 year, 365 days since she first pressed Begin Assessment. Cassie stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of the executive boardroom, looking down at the city lights of Atlanta. She was no longer 248 pounds of quiet apology. She was 185 pounds of disciplined power. The armor was gone, replaced by a bespoke charcoal grey dress that didn't hide her body but accentuated the strong, hard-earned lines of her shoulders and back. Today was not just another battle. It was the final conquest. Her team, her empire, had developed a new predictive analytics model for patient outcomes that would revolutionize their division. She wasn't just the project lead. She was the architect of the company's new strategic advantage. Today, she was presenting it to the CEO and the entire executive board. Brenda, now her loyal and brutally honest deputy, stood beside her, reviewing the slides on a tablet.
They're going to attack you on the implementation timeline,
Brenda said, her default cynicism now a precision weapon.
Be ready to defend Q3.
Sarah, no longer a ghost but a confident junior strategist and the primary architect of the new model, nodded in agreement.
My data on the efficiency gains is solid, Cassie. Don't let them rush you past slide 9.
This was her legacy in action. She hadn't just mentored them, she had forged them. When the board filed in, the air crackled with the pressure of money and power. Cassie felt the familiar spike of adrenaline. She saw the ghosts of her past, the condescending smiles of women like Jessica, the dismissive looks she used to face daily, but they were just ghosts. She was real. She took a single deliberate tactical breath. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4, exhale 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4. She was in the eye of the storm. She didn't present a project. She laid out a campaign for dominance. She spoke not of features, but of objectives. She used the language of the protocol, KPIS, 1% gains, strategic assets. She commanded the room not with volume, but with an unshakable data-driven clarity. The COO, a notoriously aggressive man named Henderson, tried to ambush her.
This all sounds revolutionary, Cassie. But the training and implementation timeline for Q3 is a fantasy. It's too aggressive. We'd need to push to next year.
The old Cassie would have crumbled. The Queen simply held her ground.
You're looking at it as a disruption, Henderson.
she said, her voice calm and even.
That's a manager's perspective. A queen sees it as a strategic blitz. The data on slide 9, which my analyst Sarah prepared, shows that a slower rollout actually increases risk by allowing competitors to close the gap. The cost isn't in moving fast, the cost is in moving slow.
She had taken his challenge and turned it into a referendum on his own strategic vision. The CEO leaned forward, a slow smile spreading across his face. The battle was won. That night, there was no email from Dobson. There didn't need to be. Cassie stood in the soft light of Alex's bedroom, the city glowing through the window behind her. He had helped her out of her dress, and now she stood before him, the scars and stretch marks of her old armor visible on the new, powerful body she had forged. For a single terrifying second, the ghost of the invisible girl wanted to cross her arms, to hide. But then she met his gaze in the mirror. He wasn't looking at her flaws. His eyes traced the strong curve of her back, the new lines of her shoulders, the powerful stance of her legs. His gaze was not one of judgment or critique. It was pure, unadulterated admiration. It was exhilarating. For the first time in her life, she was not a body to be hidden or a target to be feared, but a masterpiece to be appreciated. She was finally, completely and unapologetically seen.
The final conquest wasn't in the boardroom, was it?
She whispered, more to herself than to him.
No.
Alex said, his voice a low rumble as he wrapped his arms around her from behind, his hands resting on her strong, flat stomach.
The final conquest is realizing the war you were fighting was never against the world. It was to reclaim yourself.
He pulled a small black box from the pocket of his trousers on the chair beside them. He didn't kneel. A king doesn't kneel before his queen. He stood beside her, an equal, and opened it.
This isn't just a proposal,
he said, his voice steady.
This is a strategic alliance. You're the architect. I'll handle the infrastructure. Let's build an empire together.
Cassie's eyes, bright with unshed tears, met his in the reflection.
Objective accepted, Commander.
Later that night, Cassie sat at her laptop and typed one final report to the man who had started it all. She kept it short, a summary of the day's victory and the new lifelong mission she had just accepted. She ended it with 2 words.
Empire building.
The reply came moments later, the last she would ever receive.
The war is never over. It just gets bigger. Welcome to the 1%.
Epilogue, the war is never over. 5 years later. Cassie stood in her corner office, now the Vice President of Strategic Operations, a title she had architected for herself. She looked down at the city, not as a collection of lights, but as a kingdom of possibilities. Her body was a testament to the years of war. 165 pounds of dense, powerful muscle forged in steel, maintained with the same ruthless discipline she applied to her balance sheets. The bespoke dress she wore was a statement of power, not a tool of concealment. On the massive whiteboard that dominated one wall, the 2 columns remained. On the left, corporate KPIs for her entire division. On the right, her royal protocol, tracked with the same non-negotiable honesty. The foundation was the foundation. There was a knock on the door.
You wanted to see me, Cassie?
Brenda walked in. The ghost of the cynical, resentful woman was long gone. In her place stood the company's new director of project management. She carried herself with a sharp, no-nonsense confidence, her own scepter, a sleek, modern water bottle, in hand. She had shed her own armor, pound by pound, not under Dobson's orders, but under Cassie's.
Final debrief.
Cassie said, gesturing to a chair.
You're taking over the entire project pipeline tomorrow. Are you ready?
I am,
Brenda said, her voice steady and clear.
Good. Because they will test you. They will see the woman you were, not the queen you are. They will toss grenades to see if you'll collapse or command the situation.
Cassie picked up a small black leather-bound notebook from her desk and slid it across the polished wood.
This was my logbook from my first year.
She said,
My war room. Every failure, every victory. It's a map of the territory you're about to enter.
Brenda took the book with a reverence that Cassie understood completely.
Dobson, the man who trained me, was a scout.
Cassie continued.
He found the path. My job was to be an architect, to take his blueprint and build something with it. Your job now is to be an empress. Take the system we've built here and expand it. Find the next you. Find the next resentful, brilliant woman hiding in the corner and give her a crown. Forge her. Build your own council. That's how the empire grows.
Brenda nodded, a fierce understanding in her eyes. This wasn't a promotion. It was a coronation.
One last directive.
Cassie said, a faint smile touching her lips.
I'm not your commander anymore. You are. Go draw your own map.
Brenda stood, shook Cassie's hand firmly, and walked out, the logbook held like a weapon. Cassie watched her go, a profound sense of momentum filling the room. She had not just built a career. She had built a legacy. Her phone buzzed. A picture from Alex. It was their 4-year-old daughter, a tiny spitfire with her mother's determined eyes, standing on a small stool in their kitchen, seriously attempting to crack an egg into a bowl for their morning protein. The caption read, "The dynasty continues." Cassie smiled. She looked out the window at the endless city, at the millions of lights, each one a tiny war being fought in quiet desperation. She had won hers. She had taught others to win theirs. And now she was building a family, a pride, a dynasty that would carry the code forward. She had never met Horace Dobson. She had never needed to. Dobson wasn't a person. He was a protocol, an operating system for sovereignty. And as Cassie looked out at the horizon, she knew the final directive was the only one that truly mattered. The war is never over. It just gets bigger, and she was ready for the next campaign.